G'day everyone and welcome to the Fermented Foods e-course. I'm Cale Brock. I'll be your instructor throughout this course, and we're going to be going through how you can introduce probiotic nutrition into your home. After this course, you're going to be able to ferment different foods with confidence. You're going to be confident that it's safe, and you're going to do it with ease as well. What I really want to emphasize throughout this course is the underlying principles that you'll need to understand so that you can continue to create a bunch of different recipes. Because if I don't teach you those things, then you'll be constantly reliant on all the different recipes in the course. One of the main goals of this is to actually go and inspire you to create your own, and you can actually do that. So let's look at fermented foods throughout history, because it's a good place to start. Okay, so what a lot of people don't know is that fermented foods have been around for thousands of years, with references to things like the SCOBY and whatnot going back 4,000, 5,000 years, actually all the way back to 4,000 BC, so a really long time. Now, we also see more recent examples of that when Dr. Weston A. Price traveled throughout the world looking at the longevity aspects of different cultures around the world, and he found that one of the common consistencies amongst these long-lived, healthy cultures was that they all had some form of fermented food in the diet. Okay, so he found that the Native Americans used to actually gather roots and tubers, and they would bury them underground, come back years later and consume them. Okay, and little did they know they're actually consuming live bacteria, health-promoting bacteria on those foods after that amount of time. The indigenous Australians used to gather up sour ants and different flowers, mix them together, and actually let that ferment into a bubbly drink as well. And of course, we've got references in Asia to the SCOBY, and of course in Russia and different parts of that part of Asia with kefir and the kefir grains as well. Now, how does that actually contribute to your health? Well, it actually does in a big way, because what a lot of people don't know is that there are actually 10 times more bacterial cells in your body than your own cells. It's pretty astonishing stuff. So if you actually look at the amount of DNA being contributed to your health outcomes, it actually jumps up to around 99% bacterial and 1% human. So you're actually more bug than human. So what you actually really need to do is to acknowledge that and appreciate the huge impact that the balance of your microbiome, that is the different bacteria, yeast, viruses, parasites, and protozoans which live on and inside of you, have a massive impact on your health, and you need to work on that to rebalance it so that we can experience great outcomes. I suggest you take this course whilst in the kitchen, of course, because if you can bring your iPad or your phone into the kitchen and actually follow along with some of our recipes, you'll find that you'll start to really develop a bit of a habit with how we do it. And again, if you listen to the principles, the underlying principles behind fermented foods, you'll feel really liberated so that you can go and get a little bit creative in the probiotic kitchen. For those of you who are not that creative, don't worry. We've catered for you, and we've given you a bunch of recipes in the resource section so that you guys can rely on those for as long as you need. There's a quote from Professor Charles Mackay from the University of Sydney that says, when you look at almost any condition that didn't exist or was less common 40 or 50 years ago, chances are it is relating to the actions of the gut bacteria. We are seeing a lot of this being confirmed in the scientific literature now. So there's a big emphasis now on the microbiome. We're seeing all examples of microbiome projects being conducted around the world because people are very interested in what bacteria are doing. Now, regardless of our findings in that area, many of which are extremely positive, one thing we can do is actually take action now and begin creating fermented foods in the home so that we can consume them and gather all those health benefits that we know they do bring. When we look at the actions that the microbiome has on your body, we find that they have four main functions. Number one, they regulate and perpetuate inflammation throughout the body. So that means they control the amount of inflammation not only in the gut, but actually throughout the body. And they do that through function number two. They maintain the intestinal lining. That's that lining that surrounds your stomach. It's only one cell thick. It's the intestinal epithelial barrier. Okay, and that's actually the barrier between what you eat and your blood, so it's got to be maintained to a high standard. Number 3, your microbiome digests and assimilates your food. So the saying that you are what you eat is a little bit lapsed these days, because you're actually only what you absorb, okay? And that is determined by the actions of your different microbiota in your system. Number 4, the bacteria create important chemicals for your brain and for the rest of the body. So we see things like serotonin, which is that happy chemical we talk about. 80 to 90% of that is actually manufactured within the gut. So it has a big influence on our brain and our mental health. And they also manufacture things like butyrate, which is a highly anti-inflammatory chemical which can wash throughout the digestive system, decreasing inflammation. We've given you plenty of resources that you can draw upon throughout this course, so don't be afraid to download those and really go over the material again and again. Because we're dealing with something like biology, it can get a little bit complex, but what I'm going to try and do throughout the course is to really bring it back to basics and bring it back to home so that we can continue just to create these fermented foods and trust that they're going to confer their health benefits to us. So, you ready to go? Let's roll.